is incomplete, and I made you look small. I've been staring at my problems for way too long. Realign where my hope is set, until you're all that's left. But just a glimpse draws my heart to change, and one side of you lays my sin to waste. I don't need to see everything, just more of you. Take it all away. Magnify no other name. Open up my eyes to you. Take it all away. Magnify no other name. Open up my eyes to you. God, be greater than the worries in my life. Be stronger than the weakness in my mind. Be louder. Let your glory come alive. Be magnified. God, be greater than the worries in my life. Be stronger than the weakness in my mind. Be louder. Let your glory come alive. Be magnified. Be magnified. Take it all away. Magnify no other name. Open up my eyes to you. Open up my eyes. Take it all away. All I say. Magnify no other name. Magnify. Open up my eyes to you. To you. How can I forgive when I can't forgive myself? How can I move on when all I have is regret? How can I face you when I keep turning?
Oh, we're good. Okay, there we go. Hello and good evening, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Middle of summer, halfway through 2020. Who hopes the second half only lasts like 12 years? I mean, good golly. We're halfway through. Here we go. I'm not funny. I know I'm not funny. It's okay. So, glad everybody's here. We got some of our old faces back. We've got a few that we hadn't seen in a while. Some new stranger faces, too. So, good to have all you guys here tonight, everybody in. We are kind of in the midst of that, I call it kind of the summer blues, where we got a lot of folks that are out traveling, vacationing, doing things and not here tonight, but we still got a group here, pretty good group tonight, and we're going to wrap up a series. So we're going to get started. We always start, anybody have prayer requests before we start tonight? We're going to pray and get started. Anybody, prayer request? Oh, okay. So Uncle, four-wheeler wreck, okay. You're back? Okay. All right. Leonie? Dad's back, okay. Back issues. Bentley? Your mom, okay. Lord knows she needs prayer. We know that. Yes, sir.
I'm at West Coast to my girlfriend. Just kind of want prayer and guidance through that whole situation.
You need it, brother. You need it. All right. I got you there. Hattie. Yeah. Our neighbors, for those who didn't hear, Hattie asked for prayer for our neighbors, Butch and Debbie. They're an older couple, live right behind us, and a couple of days ago, Butch had a massive stroke, and things are not good. I'll say that things are not good. So the only hope he really has right now is God touching him. That's the only thing. So anyway, anybody else? Okay, well, let's bow our heads and pray and get started, guys. Lord God, we thank you for this time, God, that you give us the health and the wealth and ability to be here, God. You brought us here safely and well. guiding us, leading us. God, I pray that you touch our minds tonight, touch our spirits and our souls, that we draw closer to you in some way. These requests that are made here tonight, God, for the back injuries, God, the back problems, the injuries from accidents, and God, just the serious health issues that we know about. You are the healer. You are a healer. You know all and you can do all. I know that to be true. Ask for your move in these things, God, for guidance and decisions, some big decisions some of us are making now. God, that some life-changing, important decisions that you will guide, and not only right now, but God, all through the future you'll guide and lead as this thing comes to fruition. Watch over this tonight, God. Bless this service. Bless the entire ministry here tonight, that, God, people are touched and blessed, and you're glorified most of all. In your mighty name, amen. Luke?
What's up, y'all? Thank you, Danny. Nothing, just what I have to say? That's it? Okay, cool. Okay, there it is. All right, so Thirsty 30, now that we're getting more people back here, we're going to do what we originally planned, which was like 15, 30 minutes. It's really up to you guys, however long you guys want to talk. But in these side rooms right here, we're just going to have like a little side group before church. So show up, let's do 30 minutes the first time. Just show up early, and we're just going to talk about how God's moved in our quiet time, and just like any type of prayer request, any kind of small group. Also be a time just to let anything off your chest, any type of ideas you have for the youth. But yeah, so that's Thirsty 30. No Sunday school? We did have Sunday school back. What happened? Okay, so no Sunday school again?
Just this Sunday.
Okay, and yeah, that's it.
How's it going? Good? Good? Okay. Yeah, stand up, stand up.
Be careful. You're in the way. Okay. Oh. Doing so will I first.
Beautiful.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. Good.
What is wrong with my string? Stuck. I am so sorry.
Okay, we're good. It's fine. Okay, here we go. You ready?
I broke my guitar. Okay. God of creation, there at the start, before the beginning of time, with no point of reference, you spoke to the dark and fleshed out the wonder of light. as you speak, 100 billion galaxies are born. In the vapor of your breath, the planets form. And stars are made to worship, so alive. I can see your heart in everything you made. Every burning star a signal fire of grace. Creation sings your praises, so alive.
God of your promise, don't speak in vain, no syllable empty or void. For once you have spoken, all nature and science follow the sound of your voice.
And as you speak, 100 billion creatures catch your breath, evolving in pursuit of what you said. That all reveals your nature so alive. I can see your heart in everything you say. Every painted sky, a canvas of your grace. Creation still obeys you, so alive. So alive. So alive. If the stars were made to worship, so alive. If the mountains bow in reverence, so alive. If the oceans roar your greatness, so alive. For if everything exists to lift you high, so alive. If the wind goes where you send it, so alive. If the rocks cry out in silence, so alive. If the sum of all our praises still falls shy, then we'll sing again 100 billion times.
God of salvation, you chased down my heart through all of my failure and pride.
On a hill you created, the light of the world, abandoned in darkness to die. And as you speak, 100 billion failures disappear. When you lost your life so I could find it here. You left the grave behind you, so alive. I can see your heart in everything you've done. Every part designed in a work of art called love. If you gladly chose surrender, so alive. I can see your heart 8 billion different ways. Every precious one, a child you died to save. If you gave a life to love them, so alive. Like you would again 100 billion times. But what measure could amount to your desire? You're the one who never leaves the one behind. Never thought I'd be where I am now. No way through and no way out. Oh, it's hard, but I'm still holding on. Even here, nothing's too far gone. I believe every promise that you've spoken. I believe you were faithful every moment. And it may look impossible, but you're the God of miracles. You have always made a way for me. You can still split the sea. Split the sea. With a word, the waves will separate. Who you were, you are, you'll never change. Hearts would heal and mountains move. There is nothing that you cannot do. I believe every promise that you've spoken. I believe you were faithful every moment. And it may look impossible, but you're the God of miracles. You have always made a way for me. You can still split the sea. You can still split the sea. As I wait upon the shore, lift my hands up to you, Lord. I believe, I still believe. Oh, as I wait upon the shore, lift my hands up to you, Lord. I believe, I still believe. Oh, I believe every promise that you've spoken. I believe you are faithful every moment. And it may look impossible, but you're the God of miracles. You have always made a way for me. You can still split the sea. You can still split the sea. You can still split the sea.
Bring your tide and bring your shame. Bring your guilt and bring your pain. Don't you know that's not your name? You will always be much more to me. Every day I wrestle with the voices that keep telling me I'm not right. That's alright, 'cause I hear a voice and he called me redeemed. When others say I'll never be enough, and greater is the one living inside of me than he who is living in the world. In the world, in the world, and greater is the one living inside of me than he who is living in the world.
Bring your doubts and bring your fears. Bring your hurt and bring your tears. There'll be no condemnation here. You are holy, righteous, and redeemed.
Every time I fall, there'll be those who will call me a mistake. Well, that's okay, 'cause I hear a voice and he called me redeemed. When others say I'll never be enough, and greater is the one living inside of me than he who is living in the world. In the world, I lose the battle, grace says, and it doesn't matter, cause the cross already won the war. I am learning to freely understand just how he sees me, and it makes me love him more and more.
He's greater.
Every day as I lose the battle, grace says, and it doesn't matter, cause the cross already won the war.
He's greater. He's greater.
I am learning to freely understand just how he sees me, and it makes me love him more and more.
He's greater.
Cause I hear a voice and he calls me redeemed, when others say I'll never be enough. And greater is the one living inside of me than he who is living in the world. In the world. In the world. And greater is the one living inside of me than he who is living in the world. Every day as I lose the battle, grace says, and it doesn't matter, cause the cross already won the war.
He's greater. He's greater.
I'm learning to freely understand just how he sees me. It makes me love him more and
My
more
God is greater
than he who is living in the world.
guys.
Thanks, sir. All right, all right, all right. Here we are. Put this here, get my notes right here, and we'll get this thing going. All right, for those who haven't been here in the last couple of weeks, someone who has been here, what have we been talking about? Anybody? Anybody? Leonie? Offense, right? Getting offended, right, Gracie? Getting offended. Got some others here. Morgan nodding, several of you nodding. Okay. So you're remembering things. That's good. So who today has gotten offended? Who today somebody offended you? See, a couple hands there. Yeah, yeah. This week, has everybody been offended at least once this week? Yes. At least? Maybe a lot of times? Yeah. Maybe your husband or wife even offended you, right? Can happen, right? Got some of them nodding back here. Okay. So, we've been talking about being offended. The art of offense. Isn't it kind of an art today? I mean, isn't it everything we see and everything we hear, people are offended? How many of you run across somebody, and I had the pleasure, if you want to call it that, 3 years ago I went for a training with my company. They sent me to Virginia for a week. And I rented a car because the company gave me expense that I could rent a car where I could travel and get around and do things. And some of the other people asked could they ride with me. Sure, I don't care. We'll ride together. That's fine. And I had a couple guys from California and a girl from Texas all want to ride with me. Okay, that's fine. Well, the guys from California, one of them was particularly from San Francisco, and let's just say he and I are on opposite sides of a whole lot of things. And, well, we didn't get any discussions that way, but yet, just me talking in most of y'all know kind of how I am. I just kind of talk and say things off the cuff and just say whatever, and don't matter who I offend or think about, really. I don't try to be offensive. It just kind of happens sometimes. And just things I would say in talking to us, driving down the road, and at one point he says, "Dude, I can't believe you're so racist." And I was like, "What?" And the other guy from California is like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Dude, listen to him, what he's saying." And now these guys were, of course, younger than me. And so they, anyway, back and forth. So anyway, I thought back about that when I was thinking about this and the art of being offended, because to him, it was an art. Anything a person said, and I see it all the time now in media. I see it it don't matter if it's on Facebook, on the national news, whatever it's on. I see it where people are like, they said this and I'm troubled. I mean, how many people have seen where someone's offended because a guy wears a red cap? Whether or not it says MAGA on it, it don't matter. It's a red cap. It offends somebody, right? I mean, people are offended over anything. It's crazy. So offense is a big deal. Everyone gets offended from time to time. But some people get offended just every time they speak or move. So Psalm 119, 165 says this: "Great peace have they which love thy law, and nothing shall offend them." So what this verse is basically saying is, it is possible to live unoffended. And keep in mind, in this, for those that haven't been here in the last 2 weeks, when we talked about this, I said there's two things. There's one, being offended. And I said, even me, I'm pretty well tough-skinned. Not much offends me. And yet I do get offended. But then there's also, once you're offended, there's living offended. And it's a difference. When you live offended, I talked about it, it's when someone does something to you, they offend you, they pour you up just a big fat glass of offense. They pour it up, do something to you, and you're like, you'll see me do this a couple weeks now, I can't believe they did that. I can't believe they said that. And it's an offense, right? So this glass represents the offense. People get offended way too easily today. I already told you, I had a guy in the car with me. I barely knew the guy, and he's called me a racist and said I offended him. I'm like, what in the world are you talking about? So people, though, sometimes, if you watch again in the media today, you'll see it. They use offense, rather, in media. They use offense to manipulate situations. And tonight, what I want to talk about through all this is pouring out the offense, getting out of it, okay? But I want you to recognize this, especially you guys, because I've told you, this generation, you guys, the next group, because the group that's come up, they're lost. This group that's out there now with all these things going on, they are lost, man. I mean, they're so confused. They're so not knowing who God is, not knowing what really matters. To them, all that matters is the little bit of something that in their life, and anything that's not what they expect, we're going to talk about that, expectations, then they're offended. You guys have to change that. You're the next generation coming up, and you've got to change. We've got to have a foundation, a start of people who will say, that's stupid. Okay, whatever you think's fine, and go on and not live in offense with it. So they'll try to control the narrative, you see, when they're offended. They use it for that. Just like they've used racism and other things, we have to be careful now what we say, right? I mean, some people are offended by Christians. They're offended by the fact that you know God. And you will talk about, don't talk about God, that's offensive. Really? But they are. So I want you guys to learn that it's possible to live and be offended, but not live offended. And you do that by knowing God and having a personal relationship with Him. And remember this, just because you feel offended, this is one to remember, you don't have to live offended. We will be offended. It's inevitable. Jesus told us, earlier in the first message I did, Jesus said, offenses will come. He told Peter that. Offenses will come. It will happen. You will be offended, but you don't have to live in offense. When you have interactions with other people, it's unavoidable. You'll come across somebody like me, and I'll offend you. It'll happen. Some people are just offensive. My boss, he's been told that he's abrasive. And he and I are actually quite a bit alike. We get along fine because we're quite a bit alike. And Brenda will tell you sometimes, she's not here tonight, Brenda's my wife, those that don't know, and she will tell you that she thinks sometimes I'm abrasive. Sometimes I come across too hard. I'm just a little too harsh. And I'm like, I'm just talking. I'm not hurting nobody. So when you come across people, somebody's going to pour you up a glass of offense. You're going to get offended. Life's not always fair, gang. People want to think we need all this stupid social justice stuff and we need all this. There's no such thing. Life's not fair. What may be fair for you is not fair for me. There's no such thing as everything being fair. Life is just what it is. We learn to deal with it and go on. That's the neat thing about us and humans is we overcome, we adapt. When you live offended, that's you getting beyond being just offended. It's to drink that poison. For those that weren't here, I talked about, yeah, you can be offended. You got that glass of offense. But if you drink it down, if you remember I likened it to battery acid. If you drink it down, it looks just like this battery acid does, looks the same, could be the same thing. You drink it down, it eats you up inside. It eats you, it ruins you inside. And that's what offense does, it's poison. And when you drink it down, it's like you're saying, I'll do this because I'm so offended. I got to do something. I can't live with this. And it stays with you. It messes you up. Hebrews 12:15 says this. Watch out that no poisonous root of bitterness grows up to trouble you, corrupting many. Now I want you to think about it. When you get offended, how many times, let's just say if you've got siblings, most of us probably do, so I know some of you have more than one. You get a sibling and they offend you, they do something that upsets you. How many of you ever given the cold shoulder? I'll ignore them. I won't talk to them, right? I won't talk to them. I'll ignore them. And the thought is, when you do that, or whatever your method is, the thought is, I'll do this, and they can't stand this. This will get them. I know this will drive them crazy. They can't handle it, and this will get them, right? That's the thought. We want them basically to be more miserable than we are. We want to pay them back. We want them to suffer. Kind of twisted, but that's what we want. We rehearse it, don't we? Well, if I do this, they'll do this, I'm going to do this, and this is what. We plan it out. We run it over in our heads. We think about it. We talk about it. We talk about it to ourselves. We're like, I know, I'm going to do. I got a plan, right? I had a sister, I know. We did it to each other plenty of times. The Bible says here in this verse, when this poison root grows up in you, this thing where you're thinking, I'm going to pay them back. I'll get revenge. I'll get even. This poison root corrupts many, you see, because most people will let it take a root. Most people will drink that poison down, and they'll let it take a root. They'll let it ruin them. Hope you don't, but they do. Most people are living offended today. Maybe some of you are. Some of you said you've been offended today. Are you living offended, though, is the question. Being offended is one thing. Living offended is another. I hope tonight that none of you here are living offended. But if you are, we're going to talk about how to get out of that, because you can't let that stuff eat you up, okay? It's like a cancer. Proverbs 12:16 says this, fools show their annoyance at once, but the prudent overlook an insult. You see, think about that. Fools show their annoyance at once. I offend you, and you show me. Oh, you bow up, you whatever, right? It's immediate. That's the way it works. Scripture tells us. It's true, right? How many times you offended somebody and immediately you know, golly, what'd I do? What'd I say? I knew with this guy in the backseat of my rental car that day because he said it. I was like, what? But I did. If you try to offend me, see, I'm going to overlook it most likely. I really can't think of anything offhand you could say to me that would really offend me as far as something that would hurt me. Now, I'm offended by some of the things I hear people say and do, and see people do things here lately on the media, on TV. I mean, it goes on. I mean, how people treat people out in public these days. I mean, it offends me sometimes. Do I live in it, though, and think about it? No, I don't, because it really doesn't matter to me. Ultimately, when I go home at night, none of that mattered. It shouldn't matter to any of us. A prudent man will not let the offense bother him, you see. Prudent will overlook the insult. Are you prudent? Scripture, Proverbs, we live by the Proverbs, right? Proverbs says we should be prudent. Overlook the insult, guys. Can you do that? Are you strong enough? Do you have enough backbone to overlook the insult? To overlook the offense? Proverbs 17:9 says this, whoever covers an offense seeks love, but he who repeats a matter separates close friends. You see, you're free to move on. You're free to stop telling that story. You don't got to keep saying it over and over. You don't got to talk about it anymore. You can put it back here and forget about it, and it's gone. You can do that. You're free to do that, but will you is the question. You can move on with life and put it behind you, but will you? That's what we're called to do. He who covers an offense seeks love, but he who repeats it separates close friends. Which are you doing? We know what the world's doing out there. It's constant repeating. Constant. And finally, Proverbs 19:11 tells us this. A person's wisdom yields patience. It's to one's glory to overlook an offense. You see, it's to a man's glory when somebody pours this poison in his cup. It's to a man's glory to pour it out. Pour the poison out and get it out of you. Put it away. That poison didn't matter to me. That's to a man's glory. You may come and say, but Danny, hey, you don't know what they'd said. You don't know what they did to me. You don't know how it made me look. Right? And I may say, you don't know what they say about me. You don't know how they act with me. You don't. Remember last week when I said, you don't know what it's like? About a whole lot of things. From being married to talking to you guys listen to me. You never know what it's like on the other side. We don't know. It always looks bad to us, always looks the worst. But is it really? Put it in perspective. Pour it out. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple things you can do to not be offended. One, keep pouring out the problem. Keep pouring out the poison. You know, we can look at it and say, man, this is bad. I cannot believe this happened. I can't believe we're in this place. I can't believe this is going on. I can't believe they told that about. I can't believe they posted that about me. It's bad. Pour it out. You see, the moment you decide you got to get either bitter or get better, which is it? You're going to get bitter or you're going to get better? If you get bitter, you drink it down. Drink the poison. If you want to get better, pour it out. Get the poison out. How many times do you got to forgive somebody? Peter asked Jesus, how many times? 7 times? 7's a good number. How many times? 7? And who knows what Jesus said? Jesus didn't say 7, right? 70 times 7. Thank you, Morgan. He was literally saying, just keep on pouring it out. Get another one? Pour it out again. Keep on pouring it out. 70 times 7 in a day. I've did the math on that before. 70 times 7, 490 times, there's 24 hours in a day. I did the math, it worked out to about forgiving somebody like once every 3 minutes in a 24-hour day. Most of us sleep at least 6 or 8 hours. But if you went 24 hours without sleep, it worked out to forgiving somebody about every 3 minutes. Jesus said, keep forgiving. Keep on pouring it out. 70 times 7 in a day. The Greek word for offense is scandalon. It literally means you're getting baited into something and drawn into a trap, is what it actually means, scandalon. Now, there's a picture story in a Greek Bible explaining the scandalon. It shows a hunter, and he's dug a hole and laid branches over it. And then he puts meat on top of it, on top of those branches. So when the prey, the animal comes to seek the meat, steps on the branches and it falls in the pit and it's trapped. Scandalon. Offense. The same meaning. That's the explanation the Greek Bible gives in a picture. So think about that. You get the offense. The enemy, we've always said the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, right? What better way to do it than bait you with offense? Scandalon. Bait you with offense where you come around and you're like, I got to do something about this. I got to get them. I can't let that stand. And what happens? You're drawn in the trap. You fall into the trap. When you're falling into the trap, you're the prey, right? You were. Now you're toast because you fell into the trap. The enemy got you. Is that what we want to happen? Never forget, Jesus came to give life and give it more abundantly. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Which way do we want to go? With offense in our life, it's hard to follow Jesus because we let those things build up and get us angry, get us upset. Those are none of the fruits of the Spirit. One of the main traps the enemy uses is offense. Keep pouring it out. Don't let that offense get to you. Keep pouring it out. You can look at it. You can look at that offense. You can be offended. I've told you, it's okay. You can be offended. You will be offended. Some of you already told me you were offended. You were offended today or this week. You've been offended. About everybody in here has. I have. But I'm not living in offense. Are you living in offense? Are you living with, is it bothering eating you up? Morgan, just come up here a second. Morgan volunteered to help me with something a second. I left my phone to bed. We're going to pretend. Y'all just look. So Morgan's my friend, right? Yes. And me and Morgan been talking, and I'm showing Morgan my phone here. Morgan, can you believe they would say that about me? Can you believe somebody would post that about me?
I'd be offended if I were you.
I mean, why would they do something like that? I don't understand. I mean, can you believe somebody does something like that? Why? Can you believe people post things like that and they let it stay on there? What kind of friend? Would you think that's a good friend?
No way.
I mean, I don't understand. That kind of person, I mean, who would want to be friends with that kind of person? I mean, I'm right. I don't need to be friends with them, do I? That'd be crazy.
Drop them.
All right, see? How many times do we do that sort of thing, right? Thank you, Morgan. How many times do we do that sort of thing? Do we join the party? Yeah, you're right, man. They shouldn't have said it about you. I mean, don't we? How many of you have seen that happen? Show of hands. They can't see on camera. Somebody show your hands. Who's seen that happen? I've seen hands coming up all over the place, okay? We've seen it happen. Don't drink it down. Don't drink the poison. It's like social drinking. Who's heard of social drinking? Most of us have heard of social drinking, right? Social drinkers generally get together and tell each other the stories, don't they? Talk about what's been happening. Talk about what they're going to do and what happened. Who they got in fights with, who they had a date with, who they did this, who they did that. It's social drinking, right? It's like that. Every week, the new stories to tell. And they guzzle it down. They look for new information. Look for new something to drink, right? Look for something new to eat, something new to take down. Oh, man, can you believe that? That's what they do. Or you can have friends who support you. And when you say something like, you know, they wouldn't let me on the praise team. They said, I'm not ready yet. And a friend's like, hey, a good friend would say, hey, you know what? God's got a place for you. And it may be the praise team. Just keep on doing what you're doing. God's got a plan. It's going to be all right. You let him lead you. Don't worry about what you're thinking. Let him lead you. Right? That's what a good friend would say. Not, man, I can't believe it. I can't believe they wouldn't let you on that praise team. I can't believe that as good as you sing, why aren't you on that team? That's not a good friend. Okay. Know your role in every relationship. Guys, don't be offended. Most of you are still at home with your parents. Don't be offended when your parents tell you something. Know your place. I've told my girls more than once, and my boy too, sometimes I just say no. And my youngest one especially, Chloe, y'all know Chloe, she likes to say, but Dad, why? I say, because I have more information than you do. I've been around and seen a whole lot of stuff from a whole lot of people and dealt with a whole lot of situations that you ain't got no idea about. You think you know a lot right now. You do. And you're smart. All of you here are smart. My girls are smart. My boy, everybody in here has their thing, right? But you don't always know everything. Know your place. Know your role. Don't be offended if a cop pulls you over for speeding. His job is to keep people safe. If you're driving like a fool, maybe you need to be reminded that you're driving like a fool, right? I got pulled over about 3 weeks ago. I got pulled over by the sheriff of all people. Not a deputy, but the sheriff pulled me over. So it happens. If your boss is not your buddy, you got a job, most of you need a job if you haven't got one. If your boss is not your buddy, your boss ain't supposed to be your buddy. Not. Your boss is supposed to tell you what to do, and you're supposed to do it. Know your place, know your role. It'll help keep you from being offended, see, if you know your role, if you know your place. As a Christian, our role is pretty simple. To live a life that glorifies Christ. Know your role. Know what you're supposed to do. Another one, manage your expectations. Don't expect favors from people. When you do things with a motive, when you get into something and do it because the idea is, hey, if I do this, they'll probably give me that, or I'll get a raise, or I'll get that spot. If I do this, they'll give me that spot on the team, or whatever it is, right? We all know people that do that. When you do that, when you do something expecting a favor, you're setting yourself up for offense. Because when it don't work out, and you worked because you thought you was going to get it, you had expectations and it didn't get met, right? And you're offended. I worked hard. Why didn't I get that spot? When you do things with a plan, like, hey, if I do this and I do it good, they'll probably make me team captain, and I should be team captain. Then you don't get it. Are you offended? Or we look and think, hey, they've got 2 jobs and making good money. Look at it, got a nice car and a nice place to live. And really, I'm having things kind of hard right now. They could probably write me a check and help me out some, right? If I go over and just talk to them and tell them kind of, hey, things are tough right now and I'm having a hard time, they'll probably just write me a check because they're good people, right? Well, then when they don't, are you offended? Happens in church. You could say, I've been coming to Woodland for 10 years, and never once has the pastor mentioned my name. Never once has the pastor come to my house and visited. That wouldn't be true with Heath necessarily, but you know what I'm saying. You could be saying, I've been coming to church here 10 years, and they've never asked me to do anything. They've never put me on one of the teams. They've never asked me to do anything. I've just sat back here in the corner, and I've just waited, and nothing's ever happened. Right? I think all of you here know that's not the way this works. At the end of the day, if you're expecting something because you do something for someone, then they're getting blessed and you think you should be too, you're setting yourself up to be offended. Finally, to live unoffended is to leave room for what you don't know. And I told you all about a song, and I didn't know this was coming to this message, actually, when I studied my notes here and had this series. But just imagine this. Inner city. Man gets on a bus with his 4 kids. Kids are acting unruly, cutting up, clogging all over everything, climbing over the seats, hollering and yelling and bouncing up and down. And the man's just kind of sitting there, kind of glassy-eyed. And finally somebody, one of the other men on the bus says, hey, man, I want you to do something with your kids, man. They're bothering everybody. Do something with your kids. He comes out of his stupor and, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Hey, kids, come here, kids. Come here, kids. Get down. Everybody get down. Y'all settle down. Come on. And he looks at him and he says, man, I'm sorry. We've been at the hospital all night, and their mom passed a stroke this morning. I'm sorry. I just wasn't thinking. Well, the moment he says that, the whole attitude on the bus changes, right? From thinking, man, can you believe this guy's kids, to, oh, well, here, let's help you with your kids. We'll help you. We'll help you out with this. Sorry you're having a bad time. Leave room for what you don't know before you get offended. We don't always know the other side of the story. I've got to say, and I tell everybody, somebody comes and tells me something, and I'm like, well, they say, what do you think? I said, well, I think there's 3 sides to every story. There's his, hers, and the truth. Because neither one ever tells me the whole story. There's always more to it. And you got to remember that before you cast judgment, before you get offended. It'll change the way you see things if you'll think about some of these things. Leave room for what you don't know. Always remember, especially in you guys' group, and honestly, it goes through adulthood. It's not just you guys. When your friends come tell you something, tell you somebody said something or somebody did something, or when they do those things, remember, you don't know for sure the whole story. You don't know the truth. you're only hearing one side of the story. And usually it's a highlight reel, if you'll notice. They usually pick out the things that are the most damaging, the worst, and tell you those. They got to tell you those because those matter the most, right? That's the way it usually works. To live unoffended, you got to fight for the freedom you already have. And if you remember, I told you in a message earlier in this, use your freedom to create more freedom, not bondage. Example could be this. You've got the freedom to, once you turn 18, Luke, Morgan, some of y'all, and the rest of you are coming up pretty soon. Once you turn 18, you got the freedom to go out and drink what you want to drink, pretty much. I mean, I don't know, it's just rules about buying, but I mean, literally, you're an adult at that time. You can pretty much, it usually happens. You do it if you want to do it, right? But should you use that freedom to do that? Because could you drink into the thing that puts you in bondage? Freedom may think as a teen, you don't really need parents' advice. Already kind of touched on that. You can handle it yourself. Freedom may mean for a husband telling his wife, I'm a grown man. I don't need you telling me that. Husband, that's a bad idea, isn't it? Most of us know that. All the results of offense, in this case, can put you in bondage, not more freedom. My challenge to you guys tonight is to live unoffended and free. I hope you can do that. Live unoffended and live free. No bondage. That's what I've got. Let's pray. Lord Father, I thank you. Thank you, God, for this time. Thank you for us all being brought here together to listen and hopefully gather something from your word and perhaps change our perspective. Pray, God, that you just somehow cement this into us. Let us remember how dangerous being offended is, not to live in offense. God, through our relationship with you, that we'll resist these things and overcome and be examples to glorify you. In your mighty and holy name, Lord, walk with us, be with us, watch over us, keep us safe and well. In your holy name, Lord. Amen. That's all I got, guys. Thanks. Glad you're here for the week.